Hi, everyone. In the driver's seat today, we have with us Tim Kilcullen, Chief Revenue Officer for Cyber Defense Labs. Tim is responsible for the overall growth strategy at Cyber Defense Labs. Prior to joining, Tim was a senior business partner with Orange Business Solutions, a global IT services and consulting firm based in Paris, France. Cyber Defense Labs is an expert cybersecurity firm known to be a trusted partner to auto dealerships and have helped manage their unique cyber risks. Welcome, Tim.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Great to have you. Okay, so why don't we start by talking about what kind of cyber attackers are targeting the auto industry, especially dealers, and why it's happening?
Yeah, absolutely. So we generally see four categories of cyber threat actors out there. We see your nation states. They increasingly use cyber operations as a tool of national power to harm other countries, and it's just not nation state to nation state. It's nation state to organizations and companies that might reside in that nation state. It influences the population and attacks certain industries for economic or political disruption. We see criminal actors out there. Now, those are the individuals. They conduct that criminal activity most often for financial gain. We see hacktivists. They look to disrupt or deny businesses for more of a political or socio benefit. And then finally, we see insider threats. And these represent employees who use authorized access either knowingly or unknowingly to cause harm. So most frequently in the automobile dealership space, we're seeing these either criminal actors or the insider threat component that's causing the most disruption within this space.
Wow. We've covered a lot in the past about an escalating number of cyber attacks, the vulnerability of dealership systems to threats, and the new state and federal regulatory efforts. What industry norms and changes make the auto industry so vulnerable, particularly dealers?
Well, a lot of dealers are now engaged in digital transformation. They're looking at new ways to engage their customers, whether through new sales systems, where they're moving things into the cloud like other organizations are. They're adding new software programs to be more digitally aware. And all of these present new technologies which represent new opportunities for those criminal or insider threats to penetrate their system. We're also seeing in the industry a lot of acquisitions. So in the automobile dealership space, we're seeing acquisitions, and companies are acquiring and growing from inorganic growth, which then has disparate systems attached to each other. And again, that represents risks for these environments. Finally, I think they just haven't been paying attention over the years to the environments. They've been growing. Their main business is to sell cars and not look at the digital footprints in which they leave, and also the amount of customer records and other really, really sensitive information that they're retaining right now. And so you're absolutely right. When you look at some of the regulations that come out, the government and others are starting to look at some of these dealerships as mini banks. And we have a lot of banks within our customer base right now. And the more the customer records that you hold, the more sensitive and important it is to safeguard those.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is so much sensitive information. So, okay, what do you think are the biggest mistakes that auto dealers and auto industry professionals are making when it comes to cybersecurity?
It's a good question. Access controls, I think, is a big one. Automobile dealerships are not really safeguarding the way that people are accessing their networks, using personal email, which has less security on corporate laptops, sharing passwords, looking at things like that. I think there's also that business transformation that I mentioned earlier. We're seeing this entrepreneurial approach come through, and these dealerships are just transforming so quickly, they're really not looking at their cyber posture. And finally, nearly 2/3 of the dealers that we're speaking with these days do not have a proper incident response plan. So they don't know what's going to happen when something bad happens within their environments, or one of those threats, insider threats or bad actors gets in their environments. They have no plan put in place to immediately respond. And for obvious reasons, the longer that you wait to respond, the more more harm and damage it is to your brand reputation is also to the financial risk that you have.
Yeah. So I guess if we talk about real world examples, can you give us some real world examples of an attack so that our audience can get a clear picture of how these cyber attackers operate?
Absolutely. So we worked with an automobile dealership that had a breach. What happened was one of their employees clicked on an email that they shouldn't had, and then there was introduced that threat into their environments. After that email, nothing really happened that made anyone aware. There was the bad actor was in their environment conducting reconnaissance on their network, and after they kind of went through the whole network, they encrypted the network and locked it down, and had to pay a ransomware breach, which with the correct safeguards in place, they would not have to have engaged in that. Now, the interesting thing here was after it was remediated, after it was repaired, 4 months later, the same thing happened again because it wasn't fully removed from the environment.
Wow. So a lot of damage can get done without, immediately even knowing about it. So what do you think are the investments that dealers and suppliers and manufacturers can make that will yield the best return for this scenario for them?
So the first thing I would say would be protect your endpoints. Endpoints are phones, laptops, printers, other traditional workstations. If you protect those endpoints, you're covering a lot of your risk profile right there. Conduct an assessment. Have someone that you trust in the cybersecurity space look at the way that you approach cybersecurity, the way that you approach your network, your data handling, and more importantly, your business processes, and go through and get a real view of what your security posture is within your environment. I would say when we mentioned earlier that around a real world situation and insider threats, I would say train and educate your workforce. Create a culture of security where your workforce is aware of what to do and what not to do. And finally, as I just mentioned, have a plan. Have an incident response plan that lets you go step by step on what to do and how to react if something happens within your network and your organization.
Well, thanks for being with us today, Tim. I think it's been so interesting for all of us to learn about Cyber Defense Labs. So it's a tradition to close out each episode with our 0 to 60 challenge. Over the next 60 seconds, we'd like to give our viewers a chance to get to know you a little better. So are you up for the challenge?
I am.
Okay. Question number 1. If you could have one business meeting with anyone, past or present, who would that be?
Warren Buffett. I think he's fascinating gentleman and one of a kind.
Yeah, it's so true. I love that. Number 2, what's one piece of advice you would give a young professional who wants to pursue a career in the automotive field?
I would say that it's really about determination and work ethic. You don't have to be the smartest person in the room, but you could be the hardest working, and that would guarantee you success.
Totally agree. Thanks again, Tim, and tune in next time to In the Driver's Seat.
Absolutely. Thank you.